Good evening, America, and welcome to Disturb America. And here we are streaming. We were going to do the Federalist Papers tonight, but because we've decided that we're going to wrap this up pretty quickly, and everything's starting to be really repetitive, we're going to forego it, and we're going to actually expand the amount of numbers of the Federalist Papers that we're going to include in this episode, and we're going to expand it up until number 36. So me and Rhett were just talking before the show about Hamilton coming and traveling through time to come and visit me here today. And his likeness on the $10 bill, which I have never actually paid any attention to.
So with the Federalist Papers, we're going to try to get it finished up in a month here. So we're going to do 12 per week. I mean, the episodes are still going to be the same length, but we're going to try to condense and summarize and not go through each one and really just go through each topic. But a lot of the topics have been
very repetitive.
Some of the topics just completely overlap with other topics. So anyway, maybe we'll just find the quotable moments in them and just expound on those. But money. So apparently there is more. I've researched this before, but there's more expired denominations that are no longer in circulation. Of course, we all know that the $2 bill is still used, but it's just rare. I mean, they're actually easy to get. You just go to a bank and get one, but most of the time you're not going to see them unless people just, I've had them before and I spent them because I didn't really care that much because it's not like holding on to them. They're still just worth $2.
Something that I always used to think was extremely rare were dollar coins, and they're not as rare as I thought they were, because when I was working selling affordable healthcare, every single time I put a $5 bill or $20 bill in the drink machine to get me some drinks, they would just spit out dollar coins.
Yeah, there was, I think it was SeaWorld San Antonio. Every vending machine would give you back change in dollar coins. They're really not that rare, but some of them are collector's editions
coins,
because
Susan B. Anthony coins, those are a little bit different.
There's ones that have the presidents on them, presidential series, but they're not rare. They're just, it's hard to collect all of them. So the $500 bill, several were minted featuring a portrait of President William McKinley on the front.
McKinley?
The last $500 bill rolled off the presses in 1945 and was formally discontinued 24 years later in 1969.
William McKinley, got to put on the money. Like, McKinley's not a president that many people remember for much.
I mean, didn't he get killed? He got assassinated, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He's one of those presidents like during the Gilded Age that.
Yeah, he's one of those ones that had the being elected on an even year get you murdered or assassinated.
Although no longer in circulation, the $500 bill is still legal tender. Although I probably wouldn't use it. I'd probably just keep it. I mean, okay, $1,000 bill. The original $1,000 bill featured Alexander Hamilton on the front.
Again?
When someone presumably realized that it might be confusing to have the same former Secretary of the Treasury on multiple denominations, Hamilton's portrait was replaced with that of the 22nd and 24th President Grover Cleveland. Like its smaller cousin, the $500 bill. The $1,000 bill was also discontinued in 1969.
The fabled $1 million bill, that fake one, has the Statue of Liberty on it. I had one of those. It was a fake.
Martha Washington is the first and only woman to appear as the primary portrait on U.S. paper currency. Her image appeared on the $1 silver certificate starting in 1886. So I think that's before the Federal Reserve existed. $5,000 bill. Initially issued to finance the Revolutionary War and was only officially printed by the government when the Civil War began. The bill was graced with a portrait of James Madison.
So
President
wait,
Richard
wait,
Nixon.
did you say it was initially made for the Revolutionary War, but was only
Yeah,
printed during the Civil War?
was
How's
only
that?
officially printed by the government when the Civil War began. I
How the
don't
fuck does
know.
that make any
No,
sense?
that's what it says. The bill was okay. It had James Madison on it. Richard Nixon ordered that the bills be recalled in 1969 due to fear of criminals using them for money laundering activities. Of course,
Madison's our fourth
this
president, right?
explains, yes, this explains why we don't have larger denominations, because laundering and also forgeries.
As if
So
those don't exist now. Hmm.
yeah, but that's why the biggest bill is only 100 now. I think that's one reason, because you know you can't walk into a place with a $10,000 bill and people wouldn't be fooled, because the most you can carry around is 100.
And there's also very specific seals within the dollars as well.
It's the
The
$10,000 bill.
$100 bills, it's seal, its actual special code. If you hold it up to the light transparently, it's in the center of the bill. The $20 bill is on the far right of the bill, and the $1 bill is on the far left. The $5 bill is on the left, but slightly towards the center. And so they each one of them have its own
It's got to
unique
be really
placement.
good, because they also have those little fibers, those blue and red fibers in the bill, in the fabric.
That's what I'm talking about. The when I'm talking about the seal, I'm talking about in there it's blue, it's the blue fibers, but it's written out in code. It's like a number that's a long string of numbers that is through the entire bill lengthwise.
So the $10,000 bill, Salmon P. Chase may be the most accomplished politician in our nation's history never to have served as president. But even though he was a governor of and senator from Ohio, served as Secretary of the Treasury under Abraham Lincoln, and became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chase is remembered by most people as the guy on the $10,000 bill. Okay,
Nobody
remembered by
remembers
who?
him.
Exactly.
Nobody's ever seen a $10,000 bill.
Let's see. The bill was first printed in 1918 and was part of the 1969 purge of large currencies. Richard Nixon, that dude, okay, I'm guessing that he did this, purged all these large currencies at the same time he took us off a gold standard. I'm not done yet. $100,000 bill featuring a portrait of none other than Woodrow Wilson.
That racist.
It says the $100,000 note was actually a gold certificate that was never circulated or issued for public use. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing created them during the Great Depression in 1934 for conducting official transaction between Federal Reserve banks. Of course, I feel like that's all we need to know.
I got my beans on the stove. They're on low heat, low heat.
So I'm assuming you probably never run across any of these, anything larger than maybe, since they were all discontinued in 1969, it could happen, I suppose, but most of them I would presume were in private collections.
Most likely. You know, I I don't know if you're a Star Wars guy, Rhett, but I just watched The Rise of Skywalker for the first time and was utterly disappointed.
I, I refuse to watch anything past the Force Awakens. I went to see that in theaters. Yeah, I went with I'm not going to say any names. I mean, I don't see why it would be a big deal. I'm not insulting them. I went with Mayfield and Puglisi. You know, I'm not saying,
Nobody
I'm
knows
not
their
saying,
first name.
yeah, there's plenty of those people hanging around. Anyway, so I was like completely just drunk, but I remember the movie. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, this is like just like they just remade A New Hope.
Yeah, it really was. You know, when I first went to see Force Awaken, I went with Danny, Burleson, James, and Dustin. You don't know Dustin. I call him Steve because he's Steve Rogers. Um, but I'm Clark Kent, Burleson is Bruce Wayne, and Dustin is Steve Rogers. We're the Legion of Super Friends. One of my other websites and Facebook pages that no that is no longer in service. But I went there and I had a huge bunch of questions because I always knew that Leia had connection to the Force, but when she like is flying through space in the Force Awakens, I'm like, can she do that? I'm asking Danny and Burleson and them because they're bigger Star Wars fans than me. I'm like,
Yeah.
can she do that? But this
Well,
movie,
yeah, in the extended universe, I believe she could, but
I mean, and according to the comics and the novelizations, Palpatine has come back many times, and Luke Skywalker has fought him in the comics many times or whatever. But the way he comes back in this one, with literally no explanation except for how they explain his return. You know, they explain his return in the opening credits with the big roll of this text, and you have to read the
yeah,
Emperor
yeah,
Palpatine.
I didn't watch the movie, but I saw that opening role, and I was I didn't like the fact that they had him come back because it to me that
I
just
had no
negates all of the original.
I had no problem with him coming back because if they were going to continue the Star Wars lore, he comes back like six times. But the way he does it is like the Jedi, according to the lore, from at least from what I've read since I've been reading up on it after I started to like Star Wars a little bit more. The Jedi transcend death with the Force Ghost. Sith can't utilize the Force Ghost. But what the Sith can utilize is Force possession, which is taking over somebody's essence. And that's how they cheat death. And so what Sidious did in the comics was he had a bunch of clones of himself, and he would force project his spirit back into his clones, but it would only last for a little bit of time because his clones, they don't have the midichlorians to continue his body, so the dark side degradation happens in like 3 years, where the body just turns
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
dust.
I now that you say that, I'm reminded that I did know about that. The possessing the clones and all that. I did. It's been a while since I've dug into the lore, but I have. And there was also who was the Darth, I can't remember his name, the one who was in that like suit of armor.
What, Darth Vader?
No, no, the one who was in like the one who like managed to hold himself together for an extended period of time without dying, and he just over thousands and thousands of years he just started looking aged, but he never died.
Oh geez, I don't really know. I think the only other person I can think of armor is Darth Revan, but he didn't hold himself together for thousands of
No,
years. Darth Nihilus held himself together for thousands of years, but he did that through force drain, which actually in this movie Force
or
Awakens, which is probably the only thing that was cool about the movie other than Sidious's force lightning, was this was the first time in any Star Wars film or Star Wars animation that I have seen where force drain was actually used on camera
yeah, you could do that in
in the games.
yeah, yeah, Force Unleashed. I really enjoyed the first one. I don't
I
think I ever
like
played the second one.
I liked it. I didn't like what was it? Battlefront or whatever it was, Star Wars Battlefield or whatever it was. But I played it with Burleson, and
I
you
had
know, I
Battlefront 1 and 2 on the original PS2.
and I always used to love picking Palpatine and just jumping off of things, shooting lightning at people.
Yeah, that
That's why
must have been the newer one.
I think that was the new one. It's a piece of PS4 because
Yeah, they just remade the original. I think they just called it the same thing as
I
Battlefront.
went to play, but I downloaded Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2 on my computer, and I was like, "Where's Palpatine? Why am I a clone?" Like I
Yeah,
was,
yeah, you had to like it's only like special occasions where you can be a Jedi or a Sith.
yeah, I
You
was
have to
like,
like kill so many people or fill up some sort of bar or something, and then you get to come out for a little bit as like Darth Vader
yeah, I
uh,
wanted to go around with a lightsaber
or
or
Yoda.
Force lightning, yeah, I played with Yoda a lot, and the one that Burleson has too, running around and jumping around, hitting people with lightsabers. You know, I had a lot of fun playing the games, but so I had no problem with Sidious returning, but the way he returned and the fact that he has like 4 or 5 synthesis in the entire film, it's just ridiculous. Why would you bring him back and not use him? He's supposed to be the big bad of the movie, and he shows up.
By the way, who did he have a kid with to have a granddaughter?
I don't know, but Sidious was a senator, so
Um,
he probably had a really fallacious relationship. They say that bald chick that was always sitting with him inside his Senate in his Supreme Chancellor's office, whatever. He had that one guy with the
yeah, yeah, with the
alien,
blue fat guy with the
yeah,
whole
with
like
the
knuckles the
thing,
shouldn't.
and then there was
Again.
the very pale bald lady that sat on the other side of him, and they say that she was a force sensitive, and that Sidious probably had a fling of her, but that's just a theory that
Well,
Star Wars
he was a
fans have.
senator, so he was probably involved in all those drug fueled orgies on Coruscant. That's what senators do.
It's
That's
well,
what
yeah,
politicians do.
because Darth Plagueis did the same thing. When the night that Sidious killed him, they got really, really drunk, and that's how Sidious
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
killed him. You know, give me a second. I gotta go check on the beans. I can smell them.
Vitiate. Darth Vitiate. This is Old Republic. Not necessarily looking for these people.
I had turned the heat up higher than I had expected. I thought I had it on low, but I had it on medium low. So they you know drained a little bit of the juice out of there, which is okay. Um, but I was looking at it, and then it was the same reasons why I didn't like it. I may be controversial in the Star Wars community, but I prefer the prequels to the originals. But I
I
like the
do too.
originals.
I do too. But that's probably just because I grew up with the prequels and not the originals. So I
Yeah.
assume that's probably the reason why I like them better, just because of the graphics.
The graphics, the CGI was the CG was better, but it was also to me a little bit better storytelling because I got to see, you know, uh, the Jedi Order. When we start to see the original Star Wars, the Jedi Order is already gone, and so you got to see the inner workings of it and the way the Senate worked, the way everything really worked, and how it went. So I love the storytelling, and that's the reason why I loved Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which I watched on Cartoon Network before Disney purchased Star Wars. Um, but I liked it, but with this one, this trilogy, the problem that I had with it was from the very get go, I didn't like Rey. I'm like, she feels useless.
No, it seemed like she didn't have much character development.
She has
Nobody,
no character
and
development.
there's nothing about her that makes you want to root for her or like her. She has no
I know
personality.
she's the most boring main character I've ever seen.
Well, you know what they were
Like
doing, right? They were just
Mary
fulfilling their woke
Sue,
quota and making it a woman. Yeah.
but like for example, in this movie, when she's fighting against Palpatine, okay? So remember, Palpatine's Force Lightning is the most powerful Force Lightning in all of Star Wars, and in this one, it's even more powerful because he shot his Force Lightning up and knocked not airplanes, but starfighters out of the sky. An entire fleet, and she's holding back that Force Lightning with one hand, barely moving. When Mace Windu, who was using the pod, which was his own specialized version of Form 7 lightsaber combat to reflect the force energy of a dark sider back onto them, had to use two
Yeah.
hands. And in the
Who's
novelization,
more powerful than Yoda. He got easily defeated by
He wasn't easily defeated, but he was, but he was holding,
compared to Rey.
he was holding it back with two hands, barely being able to push it back, and his lightsaber was bending and being warped by the Force lightning. Rey's just sitting there holding it back, like, oh, nothing happening. And then apparently having two lightsabers gives you a power up with the Force. And she was able to push Palpatine's lightning back on him with two because she got a second lightsaber, and she's able to push it back on him, and with zero effort. After, and this is after Palpatine used force drain on her to the point where he was able to regenerate his severed hands. And I'm like, wow, she's so horrible. And
I don't
Kylo
really think there's
Ren,
anything good about any of the
Kylo
new
Ren
Star
was
Wars stuff besides the Mandalorian.
Kylo Ren was horrible. I hate Kylo Ren. He's not, he's that guy that tries to be an edge lord and fails at it.
Yeah,
He's
but you know
trying
he's a preppy kid inside.
Yeah,
Just
he's trying so hard to be Darth Vader, but he comes off as a even more poutier version of Hayden Christensen from Revenge of the Sith.
yeah, man. That it yeah, Kylo Ren is just the worst villain. You couldn't have really made the follow-up trilogy any worse.
But they
And they
somehow
didn't
they
even
did.
have Jar Jar Binks. No Jar Jar Binks, but
You
I
know
actually
what?
didn't mind
I
Jar Jar.
I would have actually enjoyed this movie more if Disney had confirmed all our suspicions and made Jar Jar Binks the Sith Lord.
Like he was supposed to be.
He was controlling things from the underground the entire time.
Have you heard that clip of George Lucas? Like, Jar Jar is the key to all this. If we can get Jar Jar working.
That's actually a deep fake. That's
That's years ago, though. They
that's
didn't have deep fake back then.
No, I'm saying that they had another one come out, and it's not and the guy he's got makeup on, he looks just like George Lucas, but
No, I'm not. I'm talking about an audio of his voice. Not. That's all he said. It's from one of the bonus discs
oh,
from
that
the
was you talking
first
about
one.
that one.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the one where he was on video doing it, but
No.
it was actually the voice of Jeffrey Peterson, Josh Robert Thompson, who did the deep fake, who did pull it off great. Josh Robert Thompson's awesome. He does so many good voices. Yeah,
I don't
from the
know who
late
that is.
from the
Deep
late
fake
late sh-
sucks, dude.
from the
You
late
know,
late
I've
show with
seen
Craig Ferguson.
I've seen more deep fakes made of Tom Cruise than anybody else. And everyone knows they're deep fakes. I don't know why they pick him. I mean,
I don't
maybe it's
even
because he looks so plastic in the face anyway,
I don't even like
except
Tom
when he's
Cruise.
talking. I don't like him either. I think he's corny, but I also think he's kind of, well, he's obviously a little bit insane.
You have to be a little bit insane to do the movies that Tom Cruise does.
But like if you watch interviews of him, his facial movements are just inhuman. Like he's really a reptilian, but he's just a Scientologist. So that explains it. And I think he's one of the few like Hollywood Scientologists who's really, really bought into it all the way.
The other ones just do it because it's like it's part of the initiation ritual.
Well, it's a status.
It's
A
like
status thing in
hazing.
Hollywood. Yeah, well, it's a status thing in Hollywood, I believe. I can't see how you could really like honestly. I know there's a time period I went through where I just like researched as much as I could and learned as much as I could about Scientology. And I know more about Scientology than most Scientologists because you have to spend money to get the knowledge when it's just freely accessible on the internet, but you're not allowed to go look at it. The church is so repressive, and you can call it a church if you want. That's what they call themselves. But the way they treat their supposed clergy, which they call the Sea Org, they cut them off completely from the outside world.
It sounds
The
like they
guy,
just if you say Sea Org, it sounds like they just ripped off their religion from Star Trek.
it's called Sea Org. Um,
Cleon.
they the guy David Miscavige is the leader of the Church of Scientology. His wife's been missing for like 20 years, They swear that she's hiding away in some bunker up in the woods in California, but everybody pretty much thinks she's dead, really. But they won't investigate it because they have so much power and money. They basically own the town of Clearwater, Florida, and they won't let you leave. If they leave, they try to track you down and come after you. It's like worse than Islam.
Once you're a part of it, you're part of it for life. You know, some people say that's the reason why Michael Jackson's dead, was that he was a part of the Illuminati, and then he got fed up with it and he was about to leave the Illuminati, and they killed him because of it.
They say that about everybody who dies. It's famous though. I mean, he wasn't. I don't think he was really known for being a big drug addict though. Like,
Well, there
well,
are
he
there
was being put. He supposedly had sleep problems, so his doctor was putting him under. But
Michael became a drug addict after the Pepsi incident, when his scalp got set on fire. He started taking a lot of painkillers after that.
for obvious reasons. But other than
But
that, like he did go a little bit crazy. But
yeah,
the way that he died was just like so negligent on the doctor's part. Like you can't do that to people. I've been put under with propofol before. When I had a endoscopy, they stick a camera down your throat and everything. And dude, that stuff is just like I was out immediately. As soon as I felt it, I was gone.
that's what they say.
Putting yourself under that's not the same thing as sleeping at all.
That's why they say it was intentional, because it was the doctor gave him what, like 3 or 4 times the recommended amount.
Yeah, I think it was more than a lot more than you were supposed to get. Like there's a reason that they have anesthesiologists there monitoring your vitals and everything and administering the drug in certain dosages because it's dangerous not to have somebody there to monitor. I think the doctor just prescribed it to him. Like you're not supposed to do that with that stuff.
That's why they say that they killed him because he was going to expose the Illuminati. But you know what? I like to think of it like this. Michael Jackson and Donald Trump had a great relationship. I would imagine that if Michael Jackson was still alive or Donald Trump was running for president, that Michael would be one of the few that wouldn't turn against him.
I
You
mean,
know,
probably because Michael Jackson was to the point where he just didn't give a damn what anybody thought.
yeah, they had run him through the ringer. He was like really fed up. Now, Michael did a bunch of weird crap. I don't think he was ever a pedophile, but
I don't.
he did a lot of
Yeah, he
weird crap
did.
because his childhood was robbed of him. I mean, we all know that.
I
But
firmly believe that his father had him chemically castrated because he sounds like a castrati from Italy back in
you
the
know,
day.
I hear a lot of that, but I'm like, I don't buy into it, because Michael was still black when he was an adult. And in some of his older volumes, his voice sounded much more masculine. So I
It's
wonder.
not just because of his voice. I mean, look at his frame. He's so small and spindly. Look at his brothers. They look like men.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think any grown man could hit notes like that, honestly. And he hit them effortlessly. And that's just my personal belief. But that I also think Joe Jackson was definitely the kind of person who would do that for money.
Oh, he would do anything for money.
So I think there's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest it could be the case.
But Michael's life was really quite tragic, especially because he became addicted to spending money. By the time he was dead, he was $500 million bankrupt, in the hole, in debt. Whereas Michael was a majority owner of Sony, uh, and by the time he died, S- Sony had
You mean
became
Sony Records?
yeah, Sony became an owner of Michael Jackson by the time he was dead, because Michael was so much in debt that he could not afford his shares. So Sony basically became an owner of Michael Jackson. Mm, and I guess people say it sort of serves him right, because Paul McCartney taught him about buying all this stuff, and then Michael went behind Paul and bought the Beatles, all rights to the Beatles, and became super wealthy off of that. So some people are like, oh well, yeah, Michael became he got what he deserved. But
Yeah, that is kind of messed up. But I think Paul he's doing just fine. I mean, he has his, obviously that's not the point. That is fucked up for Michael to do that, but Paul McCartney has his legacy cemented because he's got plenty of solo stuff that's just as popular as the Beatles.
if not more popular in some cases.
I do think it's the legacy of John Lennon is so enigmatic that he's almost become a legend. But honestly, I like Paul McCartney's voice better.
Yeah, I think Paul McCartney's voice is more melodic to the music. It
Yeah,
blends better.
like when I first heard Back in the USSR, I didn't know it was the Beatles because all I had ever heard was John Lennon Beatles songs. So I was just like, damn, I didn't realize that they all sang at that point. But the more I got into it, the more I realized that.
I had to process in my brain that you were talking about the Beatles, John Lennon, because every time I hear Lennon, I think Vladimir Lenin.
Yes, the Beatles, John Lennon.
My mind goes straight to the Soviet Union.
Well, and I was talking about Back in the USSR, which is a Beatles song, but it's sung by Paul McCartney.
But
that was back when bands used to, like, every member used to sing.
When that was back when people actually sung and it wasn't auto-tuned.
Yeah, auto-tune didn't. It's rare now.
I doubt
because auto-tune is such a great technology that even people who can really sing still use it.
I doubt there's any artist that can really that's actively recording that can really sing anymore.
Oh, there's plenty of them. You just have to look for them. Most pop music artists use auto-tune a lot, but there's plenty of artists in the music industry who can sing well without it, but they probably still use it.
I mean, Michael didn't use auto-tune. He used a lot of his own recordings during his live performances because, I mean, let's face it,
he just sampled himself.
Yeah, it's very difficult to sing and do the type of dancing that he's doing.
I think we can forgive him for that because obviously he could really sing. Everyone knows that.
And then there were many times where he just did the show while he was ill, and he would still, in parts of it, in the very beginnings, and in the middle, and in the end, he would just literally actually start singing and still be dancing. I mean, it's just that's really taxing. I couldn't do it. I mean,
some of the stuff that he's doing, it seems like there's got to be a catch or something. You can't believe he's really doing it
at age 55 when he died, and he was still doing it.
There's got to be some stuff. Sometimes he was using like wires and stuff.
Well, they say that some people say that Michael smoked weed a lot, which I could imagine. Some people say that Michael did coke, but have never produced evidence that he did coke. So
how would you possibly produce evidence in that?
I mean, you can produce evidence of a lot of other famous people doing coke, but with Michael, nobody really ever has anything of it. They have a video of Michael talking about smoking weed, though.
What does that have to do with dancing? I suppose it could make some people a better dancer, but not really. It's not so much a performance enhancer. In my opinion, it makes it harder to do anything. But everybody's not affected that way by it.
I wouldn't know. But clearly, I feel as though Michael's influence on the scene, if he were alive or Trump was president, would probably be in a different opinion of Donald Trump to a large degree. Well, not us.
I think it's impossible to say.
But the media.
I don't think so, because there's still plenty of people. I mean, dude, Geraldo Rivera, Piers Morgan, like there's plenty of people who are Trump fans that were known to be leftists. Well, I don't think Geraldo Rivera is so much a leftist, but I always thought he was a Democrat.
Geraldo Rivera, he's clearly more towards the left. But Geraldo, they call him Fox News at large, reporter at large. Geraldo is whatever they need him to be.
Yeah, he's a chameleon, I suppose.
But I will say Geraldo has the best mustache in cable television.
Who are some other big Trump fans that are like unexpected? Kanye West.
Kanye. Well,
Um,
then you also have the big Trump turners like Oprah Winfrey, who was begging him to run for president in '83.
yeah, but but that's a long period of time. Like you really, you're not even the same person. That
But Shaq is a big fan of Trump's. Ice Cube, big fan of Donald Trump.
yeah, there's a
Lil
lot of famous people that
Lil Wayne is a big fan of Donald Trump. So as another rapper, a rapper called Lil Pump or whatever his name is, Lil Pump, Lil Pimp, I
yeah,
don't
he's
know.
like a little new. He's a new rapper, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
I don't listen to rap
he's like
anymore.
a young kid.
But there's clearly some Steve Harvey. They turned on Steve Harvey just because he spoke to Donald Trump at Trump Tower before he got elected.
Steve Harvey is. I like listening to him talk sometimes, but a lot of times he presumes to speak for all men.
Yeah, well, when he's talking when he's doing the show, I'm like, Steve, you can't be giving marital advice when you had 3 wives.
Like, and he pretends like he has the authority to speak on behalf of all males, which is very strange.
Like, come on, Steve.
Like, this is how we think. Like, you don't know how all of us think. You know how you think.
Exactly. And like people are always like, well, all men think about is sex. Like, no, that's not all we think about. The only time we think about sex is when we're either drunk or when you bring it up.
Roseanne,
Oh yeah,
Dana
Roseanne
White.
Barr. She lost her TV show over some controversial stuff.
Yeah, she said some supposedly racist things on Twitter, which
Yeah.
everything is racist nowadays. So, but I think it was like probably a little racist.
I mean, they.
I
I
don't
mean, they.
remember what it was though.
I just watched a video today where Chuck E. Cheese is racist now.
It's the thing is, people say the word racist so much, it's just lost all its meaning.
And Chuck E. Cheese is racist because the mascot, the guy in the suit, didn't see the little black kid pointing at him. Like, just because you see eyeballs on the mask does not mean they can see out of those eyeballs.
All these people that I'm seeing on this list are like the ones you'd expect, like Kid Rock, Ted Nugent. Like, we know that they're Republicans, dude. I'm talking about people who aren't necessarily political or might be
Uh,
seen
Tim Allen.
as, I mean, yeah, dude, but those are the ones you expect. I'm trying to look for the unexpected, like the ones that we just listed.
Mhm.
Um,
Let's see.
you know what's interesting is
Kim Kardashian also. She was, she's part
oh
of the Kanye thing.
um
Another one I think is really strange. Caitlyn Jenner.
that's what I was about to say. Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner is like completely against the trans agenda and like
And
supports Donald Trump and is pretty much a Republican. Is now a Fox News contributor.
was running for governor of California.
That, you know what? She'd probably be a better governor than
Gavin
most
Newsom.
of the ones they've been having. Honestly, she'd probably be a
Gavin,
good one.
okay, so think this. I just saw a news story today. Gavin Newsom, they're having a vote in California. I think it's this week coming up. Um, to force hotels to report vacancies at 2:30 every day. If they have any vacancies, that they are supposed to give those rooms to homeless people,
Oh my God, that's a disaster.
and they're going to
You know,
force those businesses to do that.
homeless is really just a buzzword that was created. It's not really the fact that these people don't have a home. It's
They don't
that they
want
are
one.
mostly drug addicts and they've been relegated to a certain part of the city and they call them homeless. But that's not really their main problem.
Yeah, but now you're going to force these business owners to take up the damage of California. I mean, you just killed the tourism industry in California with one vote. Nobody's ever going to go to Los Angeles now because they will never be able to get a hotel. The prices are going to go through the roof, and you know what? You know who's going to have to foot it? The California taxpayers, and probably the United States taxpayers, because California is going to get so much government money from us, and that's going to continue to hold these uh hotels open because they're basically just going to become homeless shelters that are getting paid and to by the government to store homeless people in poor conditions because
Store homeless people.
because they're not going to go around cleaning these rooms. It's gonna take really good hotels, and it's gonna make them into Days Inn quality hotels. Probably worse.
It's going to expand just like expanding the madness, just like Skid Row has expanded to incorporate almost all of downtown Los Angeles.
But and think this, you know how I said that we didn't have that about them banning cars. Well, guess what? Virginia's about to do the same thing. Washington State, Massachusetts, DC, and Oregon are also about to have a vote to do the same thing.
Like a legislature vote or a popular vote?
A legislature vote to ban the purchase of new gas-powered vehicles completely by 2035. 38% of all gas-powered vehicles of new gas-powered vehicles can't be sold by 2026. By 2030, it's 68%. By 2035, 100% of all vehicles must be electric.
New vehicles.
Yeah.
Not used.
So you can still have the same vehicle that you have already, but once 2026 comes by, 38% of all new vehicles cannot be electric. 2030, 68% cannot be electric, and by 2035, no more gas powered vehicles at all that can be
I don't
sold.
know how they're going to pull that off.
I mean,
I don't think it's actually going to happen. I mean, they're going to have to actually make a concerted effort to make that happen and
they
make it
can't
affordable. I don't think it's going to work.
They can't afford it. I mean, electric vehicles are not very affordable.
People will just start buying used cars more.
They're not very sustainable. But here's also the biggest caveat: gas powered vehicles will become significantly more expensive in those states, and the prices of fuel will become more expensive in those states significantly.
Well, it's just going to lead to more people leaving those states.
And if they are successful, their energy grid will fall off completely because they have never energy grid. And if they do manage to hang on to some degree, the price of electric bills will skyrocket.
It's a good thing we don't live there. I think a lot of more people are going to leave. I mean, we only have 3 electric grids in the country: East, West, and Texas. And if some of these states, of course, we are on the Eastern grid. So states within the Eastern grid,
Virginia, Massachusetts, DC.
We're going to have to get our own grid or something. Probably not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. But, it's just crazy to me that this stuff is happening. Give me one moment. But I just find it crazy. But you know what? I always say that we have to always pay attention to what's happening in California, because what happens in California trickles to the rest of the blue. And the most blue state in the union is Massachusetts. There are no red districts in Massachusetts at all. So if something passes in California, it will without doubt pass in Massachusetts, and then Massachusetts will bleed into its blue sister states. But did you hear the story about in Virginia, in Norfolk, Virginia? The parents in Norfolk, Virginia just had a massive rebellion, and they were moving by like 10,000 students have been moved out of Norfolk because of the education system. And now we come to find out that for 2.5 years, Norfolk's one of the schools in Norfolk has had a registered sex offender as a guidance counselor for 2.5 years. At the
They
same
do
time,
background checks, or they just don't give a damn.
at the same time, the Democrats on the left are saying that using the term pedophile is harmful stigmatization of minor attracted persons who are not pedophiles according to them. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It is insane. It gets really funny too. Funny in a bad in a sad way, but it gets really funny in a way. I wanted to share something with you because you know me, I love me some Bigfoot action.
By the way, we are at the 45-minute mark.
Yeah, I know. I purposely set 45 minutes because I knew we were going to go over to an hour. So I'm catching on to our trends. uh, but I wanted to share this with you because remember when I told you that uh when I saw the image of Sasquatch with with without fur, that it kind of made me think that we had it wrong the entire time, that this is the Neanderthal man, or that this is at least probably Homo erectus or something like that. Maybe it's not Gigantopithecus that we all assumed it to be. And so this, uh, where is it here? Oh, did he remove it? No, where is it? Oh, there it is, right there. I was looking at it the whole time. So this is Thinker Thunker. I like Thinker Thunker. And so this is the video of him constructing the frame here of a Sasquatch with no no visible hairs.
Hey, this thing's like, this morning I woke up wondering the oddest thing. It's like, what would Patty look like without all this thick fur on her face? We don't know. We've never seen that. So I decided to tackle that head on, and I drug out a little 3D bust of a female, and I just started pulling and shifting and moving things around and making some things smaller and some things larger. And at this point, she was still kind of within the human realm, maybe. And then right around in here, maybe not. Right around here, she started becoming something altogether different. Something not human, not great ape, something strangely somewhere off in between. And look at these massive mandibles here, which we see on Patty. I mean, look at that jaw. That is a massive jaw. And something else odd about Patty, I'd never really noticed her cheekbones. Look how high those cheekbones are, how prominent, and even more strangely, how far back they are on her face. Something else odd, how they're kind of in line with this tiny little short nose like that. Something else odd, we don't see ears on Patty. So I had to make sure I made these tiny little tucked away ears back there, like tucked away back behind these cheekbones. And so getting closer here, this took me, a few hours of just tinkering with, and came up with that. And here, let me give her some eyes. Now, I'm not saying this is exact, but if you look at the two, you see the brows line up, you see the nose lines up, and the mouth lines up. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is approximately what Patty, what forest giants, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, what they would look like without fur. Now, I don't see a big lummoxing beast I see a very hardy, very robust, very noble, very intelligent looking species here. And I mean, look at that cranium. There could be a massive brain in there. And if size matters, and it does when it comes to brains, their brains are a lot larger than ours. So, you know, maybe there's a reason why they find us, we don't find them. These guys and gals might be that intelligent. And what?
And see, when I first saw this, I was like, you know, all this time I've had the difference, because we know normally when we're talking about uh a sagittal crest here. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving on the screen or not. But normally when we talk about a sagittal crest, we're talking about this area right here. But this sagittal crest, it's usually recessed on either side of the skull, of the cranium. But we have seen in some species of animal where that sagittal crest is just a ridge. It's not a cave in on both sides. And that's the reason that actually separates uh us from other species of ape, is they have a sagittal crest that limits their intellectual capabilities, because that sagittal crest takes up so much space that their brains can't fill all of this space. But if we were to assume that underneath this mound of flesh here is not a sagittal crest, and it's just this conical shaped skull that allows for a much bigger brain uh, cavity here behind the eyes, that allows for, my gosh, the possibility of something to be much more intelligent than we thought. And I actually think that if this is what this is without fur, I think if I was him, I probably would make the lips a little bit thinner. But if this is what this is without fur, this is what I would envision a caveman to look like. It just strikes me as very, very human, very, very human, almost too human. And I think that's the reason why the Native American people, the Aborigine people, have always called Sasquatch the hairy man, or their big brother, or the reason why it's so important in many cultures that they actually wove it into their art style. You know, in many Indian baskets, you will see hairy man in the Indian baskets clearly outlined by how much larger it is than the other people on the baskets. You see them in pectoglyphs and in cave paintings and all sorts of things. And so this shows a degree of intelligence that that actually shocked me when I first saw it, because I was very much like him. I've never actually just thought about what would this look like without fur or without hair. And then when you see it, it's very striking, very, very striking. What do you think?
I don't, I don't really, I think there's no way to know if that's really what that is.
Well, I will point to one thing that supports evidence that there is no sagittal crest in Sasquatch. And that evidence comes from the skull of a supposed Yeti that we have at a monastery in Tibet, which I'm sure you heard about that. The monastery in Tibet where we have a hand of the Yeti and the scalp of the Yeti that's been in the monastery. It's a relic that's been there for hundreds of years. Nobody knows how long it's actually been there. But when you take a look at that scalp, it still has hairs on it. There is no crest. It's just dome. And you take a look at the hand, where they said that some white guy went there in the 50s and stole one of the hands, but nobody ever was able to uncover it. You know, so nobody knows what the other hand is. But when you take a look at the hand is clearly not human in origin, but very human-like in origin. So that does at least give some credibility to believe that this could be all brain in here with no crest, and it's just dome-shaped skull.
It's a cone head.
Conical shaped heads.
Way more cone headed than that. I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's just such a bad quality image up close.
But unfortunately, it's the best quality image that we have. The still from 1969, the Patterson
Yeah,
Gimlin film.
I still don't know what I think about it. I don't know.
But we do see other films. There was in the 2000s, I believe, or was it 1990s? There was the Freeman footage, which was Paul Freeman. He filmed two lumbering Sasquatches outside of his property. And then we also have some footage that I consider to be fakes that other people don't consider to be fakes. For example, like this one here. I don't know. Maybe if I can find it. I'm spelling independence wrong. Where is it? Like, no, this one's a clear fake because that's Todd Standing. Todd Standing's a big faker. But this one here, a lot of people say that this one's real, but I actually think this one's a hoax. The only thing that I can't explain with this one is the fact that it seems to pick up a child.
That does not look real.
And
It looks CG.
To me, it looks like a really bad costume. But see, like when you get closer there, see how the back
Oh
of the
yeah,
neck,
that's a freaking costume, dude.
it looks like a really bad costume. But
That's a person.
Some people stand by it as being real, and they say, "Well, the baby's head moves," but I'm like, no,
Doesn't mean it's not a kid in a costume.
To me, it can just be a hand puppet.
That looks like, dude, he's walking like a human. Walking like a human.
And even, you know what? I seen that. Look at the feet real quick, because the feet look like prosthetics to me. They look like big, really clumsy shoes. But you see here, I was always kind of messed up because of this shine here on the back of the head. It looks really fake combed hairs. And I never liked it, but there are people that still think that that's the real deal. But then there are some that you can't explain, but the ones that you can't explain are the ones that are so far away that you can't make out any discernible detail. For example, this one here, apparently there was a sighting of it here in Mississippi. This one right here.
Tonight, social media is buzzing after a Hickory man says he captured something amazing on his cell phone camera. Video of Bigfoot.
Yeah, he recorded this video in McDowell County where several people reported seeing the creature over the years. NBC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner spoke to the man who described his experience.
Despite the signs outside his Hickory home,
Crazy.
Doug Teague and Crazy Daisy strayed away from the wooded trails in Dow County. He was grabbing some cameras he had set up, hoping they recorded images of a longtime fascination, Bigfoot. As he was walking back to his truck,
then a rock was through. She chased it. I just kind of stopped, took the phone out, gazed the hill, kept looking. He's still up here.
not just one, he says 3 different Bigfoot stared at him from the hill. This is just a snippet of 10 minutes of video Teague says he recorded.
He's moving.
Just
I don't
describes to me that
see-
moment,
I mean, right there.
Like a giddy school kid.
But this isn't
nervous
the one
heart.
that I was looking for, but I don't see anything in that. There was another one, apparently out in the middle of a swampish area in Mississippi. This one's a clear hoax to me. You know, and the thing I hate about a lot of these with the hoaxers is they're always running to simulate shakiness. Like, why? But there was one where they had it, and it was in like a swamp, and you were seeing the back of it, which was one that was really compelling. But I can't find it. You know, I don't know. Have you been having any problems with YouTube's search engine lately?
I don't use the search engine that much. I just look at the feed and then go from there.
Because for me, I've been having some issues. Like for example, at least on my phone. I don't know if you have different issues on the browser, but on my phone, I would type in something and things in my feed will show up. Like if I wanted to type in I don't know what was I looking for? I was looking at this lately because I was like, somebody has to say something wrong about Star Wars. So I was looking at it and I was scrolling through on my phone, and on my phone, I'm scrolling down, and next thing you know, I see the Hodge twins, and then the same stuff that came from above repeats like this right here. Like it just repeats. It just continues to repeat over and over again. The search cycle. Like I saw all this stuff at the very top, and then, but on my phone it's worse because it starts to show me stuff from my feed. Like it'll show me Hodge twins videos or something like that. Like I'm not searching for any of that. But I guess on the browser it's a little bit different. But on my phone, the search engine sucks. I don't know why YouTube would do that. Why would they ruin their search engine? But you know, we've had a fairly nice episode here. Anything you want to touch on before we go away? All right, so I want you guys to stay tuned. We're going to be working up some new content for you guys. Next weekend, we're going to be doing the next 12 numbers of the Fellows Papers, and we're going to be continuing to do that so we can have this finished in about October's time. So with that, I will see you guys the next time. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Truth Social, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you can find us at Serve America of Payson Williams or Serve America PW. And we'll see you all the next time. Peace.